Hello, Facebook land. So I'm trying something new, not quite brave enough to go live yet, but wanted to show you the process for some of the work that I do. Today I am working on the front for a champagne box. As you can see, I'm all bundled up. It's about 40 degrees out here, which if I was outdoors short term wouldn't be that big of a deal, but when you're out in the garage working long term and you get a little chilly, so I'm a little bundled up. You don't need to see my face anyway. So what I'm going to show you is I've got a champagne box here that I have already prepped, and actually I have a customer who has one. They received it in a white elephant exchange, and they decided that instead of having the saying on it that had on it, which was "wine each day keeps reality at bay," instead they wanted something a little plainer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of 1/4 inch plywood here that I've already cut down. I'm going to apply a solution to it that will be the catalyst to allow the electricity to run through the wood. And wood by itself is not conductive. It's, well, not very conductive. Given enough electricity, anything is conductive. But what I'm going to do is kind of apply this solution not evenly, because I want to leave some spaces for what they want me to write. And I'm going to use a wood burning tool to write on this. So I'm just going to leave some spaces, because what they liked was they liked a little bit of a zigzag pattern that I had achieved on the piece that they had. Now generally this is not, really doesn't lend itself to being able to direct. So when I put on the electrodes, the electricity just does its thing, and I do very little directing of it. But this is one way that I found where I actually can leave some spaces that don't get electrified, and then that way I can wood burn words into it. I've got some margins on the side here so that when I plug up, hook up the electrodes, it will give it some space to start off, and then later I can cut down the sides so it's a little bit more finished and not super burnt on the edges. So I am kind of stalling just a little bit, because when I put the solution on, I have to let it just soak in a bit so that that catalyst does its work, and it will then allow me to electrify it. Now I am not showing you my device on purpose because I'm a little proprietary about it. My husband made it for me. We affectionately call it the death box, if you haven't heard that before. The reason is because if I screw it up, it will kill me, and I'm not going to screw it up. But it's just a reminder, basically a daily reminder, that I don't want to mess up what I'm doing. Alright, so I think this has had enough time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the box on. First we turn on the safety fan so it does not overheat. Then we turn on the electricity, and you can see it start to smoke. Now I, as I said, can't really direct too much how this ends up working. However, I do have a spray bottle of water that I spray down the edges and near the electrodes, a lot of times to try to keep it from scorching too much, because I just don't like that really deep burnt scorch that can happen. What I like is a little bit more of a delicate burn. So the reason this is going so slow at the moment is because I didn't actually give it enough time to soak in. So I think that the next time I do this, what I'll do is like they do at the cooking shows, where I'll show you how I prepare a batch, and then I will switch to a batch that has been sitting for a little while, already prepared, so that the magic of video can happen quicker. Let's see here, if I can just encourage this to get on with it. As you can see, this does make a little bit of smoke. It's not horrible. and it dissipates fairly quickly. If there's no breeze, it'll hang out a little bit. Sometimes I have a shop fan going so that it helps to get it moved around a little bit, which really can also have an effect on how it electrifies the wood. I haven't fully figured that component out yet, but I do know that it can. All right, so there we go. So what happens is it just hits that magic point. And what I'm going to do here in a second is I'm going to turn this off because I don't want it to arc. Oh, I didn't get it turned off and fast, and it arced. So as you can see right here, it met, and that's what caused that that arcing. I generally try to stop it from doing that, just because, one, I like how it looks when it's reaching but not actually touching. But also, it's just generally not good for the device for it to be touching to arc like that. All right, so we've moved the electrodes around. Let's turn the device back on. Once again, just taking a little bit to heat up the electricity to get to that catalyst. Also, because I have those spaces where I haven't added the catalyst, it just doesn't have as much of an opportunity to flow through the wood as it normally would. It's having a harder time finding that path of least resistance. All right, here we got some magic happening. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and reposition the electrodes again. Once again, just trying to get more of that zigzagging pattern that the client said they were interested in. This is a lot of trial and error. There is, to my knowledge at this point, no exact science, or at least not one that I've been able to create. So sometimes I just have to play around with it, try to get it. Oh, it's causing an arc right there, so it's going up the side instead of going through the middle of the wood, following the path of least resistance, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. It just wants to go the easiest route. Oh, and there, found another one. All right, so let me turn that off. All right, so not a lot of movement on this one, not generally what I like to see. I like to see movement. I like to see that it's going to make some really great patterns. But once again, as I said, it's all trial and error. And usually, even if I don't think the piece is going to turn out very well, once I've cleaned it up and started down the road of making it into its final product, then it's a lot better. So sometimes when I'm doing it, when I'm in the electrification process, it's just not looking like what I end up thinking it's going to look like long term, and I don't necessarily care for it too much. But then it just will eventually come together. Alright, so I'm just going to see if I can get this one to give me a little bit more movement. It really just at this point wants to go along the charred edges, which is not what I would like it to do. But it may just be that's what we end up with this piece. Yep, there we go, arced again. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this piece alone. clean it up with just a quick brush and wash, and then we'll see what it ends up looking like, and hopefully it'll be something that I can then sand up and use. Even if it's not for this particular client, I can probably use it on another piece. Thank you very much for your time. Talk to y'all later.